spot, bringing stats like a kingpin. MMA knowledge needs his nephews all lean in, breaking down fights, codes that daddy supreme on. Just a tip show, he's cooking up a dream. Uncle Weezy, he the man, dropping fight facts, got it all on hand. He the stat attack grand, MMA guru, more than just a fan. Wanna know the numbers? Weezy got them cataloged, from the fighters reach down to how many times they dog. Just a tip living, breaking it down slick, hit you with the knowledge, won't miss a single trick. Uncle Weezy, he the man, dropping fight facts, got it all on hand. He the stat attack grand, MMA guru, more than just a fan. Those deep predictions, he be making those calls, getting in the details, opponents feeling small. From jabs to takedowns, got the whole fight ID. Uncle Weezy spitting truth, no lie, keep it G. Blow the horn, blow the horn. Stat Daddy Weezy not showing no scorn. Fight Night Kingdom, he wearing the crown. Break it down for the peeps, never looking like a clown.
Oh, yes. What's going on, everybody? It is Thursday night. Normally, I would not be on YouTube on Thursday night. It's my day off. But one of my regular viewers, guy by the name of Go Flamingo, is sponsoring a very special episode of Ask Weezy. UFC 305 is coming up this Saturday. Perth, Australia, Western Australia. It's a far place, unless you live anywhere but like Australia and New Zealand. And even if you're in New Zealand, it's like 4 hours. So we're going to Perth. I'm not going. Most of you aren't going, but the fighters are and the fans are. And it's going to be a pretty good card. I mean, we're headlined by Dricus, DuPlessis, and Israel Adesanya. We haven't seen Adesanya in about a year now. Co-main event, Steve Urseg versus Kai Kara France. And Urseg coming off the loss, unanimous decision loss to Alexander Pantoja in Brazil. Very good performance by him there. He's getting his next chance here to get back up the ladder or maybe get another title shot sometime soon, because he looked very good in the first one for somebody who only had 3 UFC fights up until that point. We got Dan Hooker and Mateus Gamrot. We've got Valter Walker and Junior Tafa. We've got Jairzinho Rosenstruik going up against Tai Tuivasa. It's going to be a great card, and even the prelim fights are pretty good too. So I'm fired up to talk about it with you guys. What I'm doing today is this is a show that I don't have to research. You know, I don't have to do anything. The research is already done. I'm here to answer your questions. What do you need to know from me? Because there's a lot of things that I can do for you today. You know, I mean, I've got a database of UFC statistics here. Let me present my screen for you guys. Hang on just a second. Do that. And if we got the screen up here, there's my bet online. But like I've literally got every fight that's ever taken place in the UFC since, this is 2024. It's 2023, 2022, 21. If you got questions, I've got the answers. You know, we've got over 5,000 fights worth of data to draw from here. Do you want to know? You want to know shit about the women's flyweight division? You know, you want to know how many fights didn't go to decision? You know, in 3-round fights, 81 fights didn't go to decision. 213 3-round fights. I've got all the answers. I've got all the statistical answers that you could possibly want to know on this card. I've got write-ups for every fight on this card. These are the notes from last night's probability show where we found a lot of plus EV bets. These are the notes from the fights, you know, where I've got 71 pages of notes here on all 12 fights that are on this card. And we've got the last 3 fights of each fighter, how they looked in comparison to their betting lines. We've got a summary of the trends, the recency bias, the market accuracy on betting lines of the fighters. We've got a summary of both fighters overall and UFC strength of schedule. We've got a summary of distance striking stylistic components, of clinch and grappling stylistic components. We got the strengths of each fighter, the weaknesses of each fighter, the conclusions for the fight, the pick, the reasoning, the best bets. We got it all for all of the fights. So I'm here to answer your questions. Another shout out to my guy, Gogo Flamingo, which is the reason why we're all here today. So drop those questions that you got for me in the chat. I'll do my best to answer them. All the statistics that you see today, you can find at the Patreon at the Dub Club for Uncle Weezy. You go there, you're going to be able to find a lot of information based on the stats packages that I send out to people that have basically every statistic that UFCstats.com offers on their website is available on my stats packages as well. So join us there. $25 a month for the probability tier, $10 a month for the advanced stats tier. Get a lot of great information there, access to the Discord, access to my track bets, access to the fight write-ups that you just saw, access to the individual fighter stats, the matchup stats, the over-under betting model, the prop betting model. It's got a ton of stuff. So join us over there, and let's get on with the show today. Let's see who's hanging out in the chat with us. Let me know if you have any questions for me this week, and we'll answer any betting questions, any prize picks questions, underdog, anything you need to know. Holler at me. I'm here to answer them for you guys today. We got my guy Paku MMA in the room saying, "Oi!" We got my guy Broke Degen in the room saying, "I'm going to listen to the intro right now." Paku is saying, "Let's go, Weezy. I arrived in Perth on Wednesday. Congratulations. I take it you're going to be going to these fights, and I can't wait to watch them myself. But if you're going to be there in person, even better, Paku." Broke Degen saying, "I basically put it in my playlist." I love it, dude. I love this. I love this intro. That's my guy Matt from the Golden Octagon that put that together for me. Great stuff. I enjoy listening to it too, man. It's a lot of fun. Paku saying, "The vibes are immaculate. Izzy was very locked in on the open workouts. Seems very focused and switched on. Fight week has been amazing and is only going to get better." It must be quite an opportunity to get out there if you are from Australia, if you are from New Zealand, and they're doing 2 or 3 cards a year out there. It's good to see the fans getting an opportunity to support the organization that they love. And I know that the Australian fans are what's the word I want to use? I mean, like, they're just passionate. They're passionate about the sport. You could see it. You know, when they go to certain places, when they go to Paris, you know, that crowd is amazing. They're chanting in unison. It's loud. I mean, I remember the last time I saw Benoit Saint Denis fight in Paris. It was amazing. I was getting chills listening to the crowd singing songs while he was in the octagon, all in unison. It was amazing. And, you know, you see that in London. You see that in what do you call it? In Australia when they're there. I mean, it's great to see these fans get an opportunity to support the fighters that they love. We got Daz Files in the room saying, "Oi, what's up, Daz Files?" We got Olajuwon Dream in the room saying, "Oi." We got Hamil Karbarkas in the room saying, "Oi." We got Nate in the room saying, "Oi," as well. My guy Gogo Flamingo, who is sponsoring this show today, saying, "Let's go, kids. Let's get it." TH is in the room saying, "Yo." We got "Oi, let's go" from Colby Saul. We got Cameron 13 in the room saying, "Oi, Weezy." We got K-Dog saying, "Oi, T.O. Weezy, big pay-per-view." Yes, it is. This is a big pay-per-view. I mean, we got some really good fights on this one. I'm looking forward to it. I've got a good amount of bets already. I've got some stuff that I'm probably going to add tomorrow after I see the weigh-ins, after I see how everybody looks on the scales. I'm looking forward to putting in the rest of my bets, but as of right now, I think I've got 7 units tracked on this card. Looking to probably get that up into the double digits by the end of the day tomorrow. Broke Degen is saying, "Gotta hear the whole intro recorded into video form and saving my playlist." Yeah, dude, I don't know how to do that, but like, yeah, I could just actually do the audio version of it. Maybe I'll send it to you if I can download it. K-Dog saying, hashtag show your worth in Perth. Let's get it. We got my guy Kiwi Brew in the room saying, "Sure all," and he's saying 3,398 miles from Auckland to Perth. Yeah, that's a lot of miles, but it's kind of like going from New York to LA. It's a long flight. It's seriously long flight. But look, if you're going from South Florida to fucking Perth, you know, you're talking about a flight that's probably over 24 fucking hours. So when people are saying that the city kickboxing guys have home field advantage here, in fact, they do. Because if you're fighting Mateus Gamrot and you're Dan Hooker, your flight from Auckland to Perth is a little bit shorter than his from Poland to Perth. Or if he's training and doing his camp in South Florida like he usually does at American Top Team. I mean, getting from South Florida to Perth, dude, that's going to take like a day and a half. I mean, it's so fucking far. So, yeah, man, it is a long way from Auckland to Perth, but it ain't nearly as far as anybody else that's not from New Zealand or Australia. As far as they're going to have to go, those people that are coming from Brazil, those people that are coming from anywhere in the States, anywhere in Europe, they're going a lot further. My guy Tristan is in the room saying, yeah, let's get it, Weezy. Good to see you hanging out in here, Tristan. And he's saying everyone already knows Izzy is Chinese. Yes, of course he is. I mean, this guy's trying to claim Nigeria, when it's like it's Dricus who's the real African here. He's the one who wakes up breathing the African air. This guy's he's in China. He's in New Zealand. So yeah, man, everybody knows Izzy's Chinese. We all know that. We got Gogo saying what's up to Kiwi. And Kiwi is saying, what should the line in Culibao versus Ramos fight ends in sub? All right, so what we could do in order to find out what that line could be priced on based on the prior information is what we would look at my my betting model here, right? And if I kind of just fatten up these lines for you guys here, first of all, let me do this so we can get that, and then we can kind of like fatten this up so that you can see everything, resize the rows. And, once again, like I say, that this is all available on the Patreon. This is on the probability tier of the Patreon. What these lines do, line 19 of this spreadsheet, and I'll take this down so that you can see the whole thing. Line 19 of that spreadsheet is the win condition of each fighter, right? And what that does is we take line 17 and we take the fighter win stat. So like line 17 over in this part right here is going to indicate Josh Kulibao's wins and Ricardo Ramos's losses. So we could take, for instance, for submission for Culibao, he's had one of three fights end by submission where in his fights, and then in his wins, I should say, one of his three wins is by submission. And for Ricardo Ramos, he's had 5 losses in the UFC. 2 of them come by submission. So 37.5% or 3/8 of Josh Kulibao's win condition is by submission. And then we also know that Kulibao's win condition, this number right here, 57.08, is just minus 133 converted into a percentage. So if Josh Kulibao's win condition is 3/8 by submission, we have to take that 3/8 and multiply it by his win condition or his implied win probability, which is 57%. And that gives us this number here, which is 21.41%. You see that right there, right? So 21.41% of the fight on Josh Kulibao's side is his submission win condition. Same thing for Ramos. 1 of 7 wins in the UFC for Ramos by submission. 0 of 3 losses for Josh Culibao in the UFC come by way of submission. So I've got Ramos's submission probability at 10%. He's only winning 47% of the time, according to his money line at plus 113. So we adjust that down to 4.69%. So the sum, 21.41% and 4.69%, it's almost exactly 25%, which would mean fight ends by sub should be priced somewhere in the neighborhood of plus 300. If you're only getting plus 200, you're probably overpaying a little bit. If you're getting it at plus 500, you're probably getting a really good price there. But just based on each guy's win condition and their opponent's loss condition, adjust that probability by each fighter's implied win probability, it's going to give you a number somewhere around 25%. If I were a bookie, I'd be looking to price it around plus 300-ish. And then I would add whatever VIG I'm putting into that line to get it to somewhere like plus 275 or something like that. So that's probably what I would look at, is around plus 275 is probably what a bookie would look to price that line at. Let's see here. We got my guy Genova7 saying, which fight in this card is most likely to result in a certain uncle bagging up a bunch of oranges? So I kind of feel like Genova that would be the Tom Nolan fight, because unfortunately we get these situations where we get a little bit of a mismatch here. I mean, everybody knows that Alex Reyes had 6 years off between fights when he lost to Mike Perry. And then when his next fight, he came back for Charlie Campbell and got knocked out in the first round there. So guy's got 2 consecutive knockout losses. He was never really supposed to be in the UFC to begin with. He got a short notice opportunity to fight Mike Perry when Mike Perry's opponent fell off. So here he is. They're sending him to Perth to fight against an Australian fighter. So they're basically setting him up to lose here. And everybody knows that this guy Nolan's much more powerful. He's a lot younger. He's taller. He's longer. And he's the much better striker here. So he's at minus 1,100 on the money line. So when we get to that, if we get to the betting template here, you just start to see these ridiculous minus 425 to win by KO, minus 1,000 to win inside the distance. So unless you're Reed, like you watched a bunch of tape and you're like, dude, I think Alex Reyes is going to win this fight. If that's your read, then there's going to be value in the props that you are betting. You know, Reyes by decisions plus 1,800, Reyes by submissions plus 2,500, Reyes by KO plus 1,150, right? So there's going to be value there, but anything that you're paying for on the Nolan side is just going to be extremely overpriced. And if you're betting these overpriced lines and you're just holding your nose and going, yeah, Tom Nolan's going to win and he's going to win this way, that's when, you know, you got the knockout prop and then he lands a big shot and the referee doesn't step in and then he just decides to jump on the dude's neck and he wins by submission. So when you're paying that kind of juice for inside the distance for KO props like we're seeing right here, it's a great job to just stay away from it, to just say, you know what, man, unless I'm on that Reyes side, there's no value in any of these props. The bookies are onto it. You're not going to see any value anywhere, and you might as well just pass on the fight. So that would be your 1-800-GAMBLER fight of the week, is Tom Nolan versus Alex Reyes, because I don't see any opportunity there. Yeah, and I got my guy. Hey, hang on just a second. Stay with me here. For anybody that doesn't know, my guy Genova7 is a producer here. I just got his latest album here. It is called Lost Sci-Fi Movie Themes. Badass stuff. Just got it in the mail sent to me. So everybody check out Genova7's work on YouTube, on Bandcamp. Phenomenal producer of some great beats, great production. Love Genova7's music. Big shout out to my guy Genova. We got Tristan Sherhouse in the room saying China is rolling this weekend. Kanan Song and Izzy parlay. Love it. Yeah, I think Kanan Song wins. I actually bet the fight goes to decision there. I'm just hoping that Ricky Glenn isn't completely washed. And if he's not completely washed, I think that fight's going to go the full 15 minutes there. Got some decent plus money at plus 170 or plus 180. So I like that play. But yeah, and Song's got power, but I'm just kind of hoping that maybe they're a little bit low volume there and nobody hits the off button and then that thing goes the full 15 minutes. Yeah, I guess it's a little bit of a fade on Song, but maybe it's just a little bit, like I think the bet for me is that the market is burying Ricky Glenn a little bit too soon, but I might be wrong about that. Sometimes these guys are right about like, oh, this guy's done, and I can tell. And it's hard to tell sometimes, especially when they're only 34, 35 years old, like Ricky Glenn, as opposed to like some 38, 39-year-old guys that are on their way out. All right. We got Dixon Sider in the room saying, Prophet Weezy, oi! Is there any one specific plus money prop that's making you harder than Portland cement this weekend? Yeah, there's... Okay, let me look at the probability show notes. So, let's see. See, I got the under 1.5 rounds for Jenkins versus Burns at plus 105. And yeah, that had me standing at attention, ladies and gentlemen. Even at minus 110, minus 115, definitely one of my favorite bets of the week. Herbert Burns, I mean, the guy's one of the biggest quitters that I've ever seen get into the UFC octagon. And Jack Jenkins is somebody who lands extremely hard calf kicks. And this guy's had serious knee surgeries just recently. And he's hurt his own knees in fights where he's been in control of the fights. And he'll get a triangle on and blow out his own knee. So I think that Jenkins is going to chop this guy's leg off in the first 2 or 3 minutes of the fight. I think that Burns is just going to quit the very first chance that he gets. And Burns always has finishing equity in that first round. That's when he's absolutely at the most dangerous. So for a guy like Jack Jenkins, when their pricing is inside the distance prop, they opened it at minus 350 on Bet Online. To get the under 1.5 rounds at only minus 110 is a huge bargain if you just consider Jack Jenkins finishing equity here. But the thing is that you get 100% in that under 1.5 rounds for Jenkins Burns. You get 100% of Herbert Burns' finishing equity as well, because we know that guy is dangerous for the first 2.5 minutes of a fight before he quits. So I love the under 1.5 rounds this week. I've got a 3-unit bet on that at plus 105. What else? I do like Ramos by decision. I don't know if I'm going to get there, but that is one that I like. I'm probably going to be betting fight goes to decision for Tafa versus Walker. I don't think I'm doing anything with Jingaling versus Pratesh. I'm thinking of betting very small Rosenstrike by decision or fight goes to decision for that fight. And I'm fully aware that bet could go tits up 30 seconds into the fight. But I do think it's going to be kind of sloppy. And I think that there's some value in those props there. Oh, yeah. The Hooker, Dan Hooker plus 3.5 points handicap. I bet that today for 1 unit at plus 100. That was available on DraftKings Sportsbook. I don't have them up right now, but yeah, plus 100 for the Hooker 3.5 points handicap, plus or minus 110 for the under 1.5 rounds Jenkins versus Burns. And those are the ones that I'm most excited about this week. Let me get the stats back up here for you guys. We got TH saying what's up to GoGo, who is the sponsor of this week's Ask Weezy. We got Marco Puzo in the room saying, Weezy, I'm in the trenches. I need a good one for Saturday, a real ass shaver. Well, I like Stuart Nickel to win this week. I think he's a pretty good parlay piece at minus 230. That is your Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week for this week. Other than that, good violence props. What do we got for good violence props this week? Let me see. Violence. Kulabao by sub at plus 800 is very interesting for a guy in Hamos who's been tapping the arm in guillotines. There was a decision prop I liked too. Walter Walker by decision at plus 280 is something that I like a lot this week. Even Tafa by decision at plus 575, because I like that fight goes to decision there. But I think Stuart Nickel is my favorite parlay piece of this week because he's not like minus 300 yet. I think that he's going to dominate the grappling exchanges versus Aguilar, and I feel bad for anybody that has to make the trip from anywhere to Perth. You know, especially when you're fighting. I think Stuart Nickel is from Perth, so he's right at home. You know, he's not making that long trip, but you have to worry about an adrenaline dump. You have to worry about nerves with it being his UFC debut. So that's something. That's why I think that Nickel's like not minus 400 here, is because it is the debut. But he's much better on the mat than this dude. And yeah, Aguilar, you just know the guy's a one-trick pony with his guillotine choke. If you can just stay safe from the guillotine, he'll easily be able to put him on his back and keep him there. My favorite contrarian bet of the week is Rosenstruik by decision at plus 750. So Tai Tuivasa is a very sloppy striker. He throws big, wild hooks. And if he lands with any of them, man, you are in serious trouble. But I think Tuivasa's best weapon is the calf kick. Problem is that, you know, Tuivasa is a southpaw. Rosenstruik's an orthodox fighter. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult throwing those inside leg kicks because an experienced kickboxer like Jairzinho is going to be checking those. In addition, Jairzinho's best weapon, in my opinion, is that jab of his. The jab works better against somebody else in the orthodox stance, not against southpaws. So I think that Tuivasa and Rosenstruik this week, because Rosenstruik's a little more dangerous against orthodox fighters, in my personal opinion. Like you'll watch, for instance, when Rosenstruik fought Overeem, that was a 5-round fight. Overeem was in the southpaw stance for that entire fight. And this is a guy that we know can switch stances. We know that he is a natural orthodox fighter, is Alistair Overeem. But when he fought Jairzinho, he's like, fuck that, man. I'm not letting this guy get off on his jab with me. So I'm going to stay in the southpaw stance for the entire 5 rounds. And it took him until 10 seconds left in the fight to find the power shot against him. Same thing with Gaziev recently. We saw that Gaziev was able to take this guy into past round 4. And if he had just, you know, not said that he couldn't see, that would have went into the 5th round. And Tuivasa is a very durable guy, as is Jairzinho. Jairzinho doesn't get knocked out a lot. So Rosenstruik by decision plus 750 on Bet Online, I think is an interesting contrarian bet this week. I think fight goes to decision for a heavyweight fight in Tafa versus Walter Walker is an interesting contrarian bet this week. What else do I got for you in terms of a contrarian bet? Oh, Burns first round sub plus 2,500 on Bet 365. I love that. I mean, I think that's his best win condition. So sometimes you can get these big underdogs at what their best win condition is because they're a one-dimensional fighter. And you could take a shot on that for very small, you know, 1/10 of a unit exposure. You could potentially win 2.5 units on that bet there. So those are the spots I think I like there, man. We got Ryan Suck in the room saying, oh, what is up, Ryan? Saying, Weezy, a goat. I appreciate you. The goat, the true goat, is our guy Gogo Flamingo, who is sponsoring this show today. Go check out Gogo Flamingo. Everything that Gogo Flamingo does, great deals. Everything must go. And he's the one that sponsored the show for today. All right. And we got Olajuwon saying, it ain't day drinking if you don't start in the morning. Well, it's very true. And I'm 4 drinks deep, by the way, you guys. My girlfriend and I went out for to this nice place in Chicago here called Dearly Beloved. Beautiful cocktails, great food. We each had 3 cocktails, and then the waitress brought over another one for each of us, said that they were mistake cocktails that were made in error. Nobody was ready to drink them, so they brought them to us. We had 4 drinks instead of only 3. And I'm still feeling it. I have switched to water, of course, because at this point I'm trying to answer your guys' questions about these fights and be somewhat, you know, able to talk and string together sentences. So I've had to pull back a little bit here. But yeah, I'm feeling it. And I did not start day drinking, but we started at about 5:30. So definitely got into it a little bit today. Garrett is asking, what do I think about Izzy finish only? If you think Izzy's going to finish him, I would just bet it. I would just bet the finish prop because Dricus DuPlessis is a finisher. This guy has finished all but 2 of his wins. And basically every fight that he's ever been in has finished inside the distance, except for the Strickland fight and the Brad Tavares fight. And that Brad Tavares fight, if Brad Tavares wasn't as tough as he was, that probably would have gotten stopped as well. So I think that Dricus is very likely to finish Israel Adesanya. They've been very careful about putting Israel in there against guys that just cannot grapple at all. I mean, the middleweight division is full of dudes who can't grapple for shit, So this guy DuPlessis is going to pressure him. He's got power, but he's like 10-1 to the submission in his career. I mean, Izzy doesn't even know how to spell submission. So I don't like a finish only for Israel Adesanya because I think that Dricus DuPlessis has just as much, if not more, finishing equity than Israel Adesanya does this week. Adesanya absolutely has finishing equity. He's the far more precise and technical striker. He's a sniper, and if you get reckless trying to crash the pocket on a dude like that, you're giving him exactly what he wants because he wants to counter. He wants you to get sloppy. He's waiting for you to make a mistake. And great counter strikers, that's what they do. They just get a little bit out of range out of what you're throwing. They get your timing. They figure out what it is that you're doing. And they make sure that they can slip just far enough and then rip that counter in return when you're not ready to defend. And when you land those shots, they can often end your night. So I think that Izzy is absolutely live for a finish. I just don't think that the finish only is a great bet because I seriously think somebody that can grapple as much as Dricus can and is as dangerous on the mat as he is with his submissions is just as likely to finish the fight as Israel is. We got Broke DJ saying Uncle Weezy is truly an uncle to us. I'm sure everybody feels the same. Like, I love you like a real uncle. Truly appreciate you, Broke DJ. It's one of the guys that supports me on my Patreon. So I love everybody that supports me on the Patreon. It means a lot. It allows me to be able to come here and do this stuff for you guys and entertain you guys for free on YouTube because of the people who make sure that they do support the work enough that I'm able to put in enough hours doing it. Nathan Robinson is in the room saying Dricus mentioned at the open workouts that the rehydration time from the weigh-ins to fight time is less than normal. Besides Herbert Burns, should this info affect our reads on anyone? We'd have to look at people that were, that are tending to cut a shit ton of weight. And like somebody like Steve Urseg, that could matter. But you got to remember, Steve Urseg is Australian. So he's probably fought under these rule sets before. If that's how it is in Australia for the UFC, it's probably the same way in the promotions that he fought in over there on the regional scene. So, I mean, guys like Dan Hooker, Steve Urseg, let's see here, Burns, Nolan, these guys that cut a ton of weight. Because Nolan's huge for the weight class. Burns is a very big featherweight. Dan Hooker, very big lightweight. Urseg, huge flyweight at 5'9". And I don't know how much weight Dricus cuts. I know that he used to fight at 170. But those days are long gone. So, and you got to remember, if you're thinking it's going to affect an Australian fighter, chances are they're used to that. They're used to fighting under those rule sets, and maybe they haven't done it recently. But these Australian fighters, like the guys that train in New Zealand at City Kickboxing, like the ones that are training in Australia as well, guys like Tuivasa, guys like Tafa. These guys, they would know what that's all about. But, with heavyweights, it doesn't necessarily matter. It would be with the people that really do have nasty weight cuts. Saying like, that was unbelievably Dustin Poirier 4 took him out. Yeah, before he took him out. Right. Weigh-in start at 5 p.m. Central tomorrow. 5 p.m. Central, really? Damn, dude, that's late. Yeah, because then they're gonna start much earlier than we're used to. Yeah, that's wild because normally they would start at like 11 o'clock Central Time when they're in Vegas, for instance. And then you're not gonna fight until usually 4 p.m. the next day. So you would actually, even if you were the first fight of the night, if you got on the scales quickly, you would have like something like 29 hours to rehydrate. But here it sounds more like they might have 16 to 20, which would be a lot different. Let's see. We got Broke Degen, and I say France because the whole country, and how did they with Olympic opening ceremony and the men winning boxing gold medals? Yeah, France is I've been there before. It's a beautiful country, but you know, like the Olympics is always a fucking boondoggle. Every place that has the Olympics loses a ton of money on it. You know, like the city brings in a bunch of tourism for a short period of time, but like all the money that goes into the infrastructure with putting on an event like that, it's just a big mess. So I'm always glad. I remember when Chicago was trying to get the Olympics, I was like, oh God, please let that not happen. I don't want my city getting overrun for like a month. We got Go saying, did you do a greasy 4-leg parlay? If not, can we work on some ideas? Yeah, I've already got my ideas, but the problem is that one of the legs that I like the most is going to be one of those it's going to be one of those hang on just a second, guys. It's going to be one of those 3.5 point handicap bets, and I know that some people don't have access to that. All right, MMA, UFC. So I would do Stuart Nickel because he's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. I would do the under 1.5 rounds in the Jenkins versus Burns fight. I would do the plus 3.5 points handicap for Dan Hooker because I think he's going to keep that fight very close. I think he's very live to win this fight on a damage over control scoring. I think he's going to land the bigger shots at distance. If you think about the Jalen Turner Mateus Gamrot fight, that was one of the few fights where the judges favored crotch sniffing over damage in the last couple of years. Like I've gotten burned so many times by having the wrestler, and then I get told because in a fight that the guy won, oh no, he didn't do damage, so he didn't win. Like Jared Gordon, you know, the fixed fight against Pimblett, or Yi Jia against Jun Yong Lee. You know, Yi Jia clearly won all 3 rounds of that fight, but they pretended that he didn't control him for 11 out of 15 minutes. And they even had the referee help Jun Yong Lee because Jun Yong Lee got taken down. And then there was, he got fouled. Yi Jia got fouled by Jun Yong Lee. And then they stood him up and then they didn't give Yi Jia back his position. And then the judges even scored that round for Jun Yong Lee. It was disgusting. But like one of the few times where somebody does no damage, it was the Gamrot versus Turner fight. And the way I'm looking at it, I think Dan Hooker is a way better defensive grappler than Jalen Turner. And he's just as dangerous of a striker. I mean, we can prove that because we saw Dan Hooker strike with Jalen Turner for 3 rounds and go back and forth with him, not be afraid of him, willingly engage with Jalen Turner on the feet. When you go and watch Gamrot versus Turner, Gamrot is like basically is this close to like turning his back and literally running away from the guy for 3 rounds. Unless he's shooting takedowns, he's running away in that fight. So this Dan Hooker plus 3.5 points handicap at plus 100, definitely one of my favorite bets of the week. And then the other one that I like is just the main event to not go to decision. I think somebody's going to get served. Israel Adesanya, if he is locked in, if he is ready to go, he's so fucking accurate. He's so clean. 10 knockdowns landed. Or what is it? I've got it here. Let me find that for you guys. Israel Adesanya has landed 13 knockdowns in the UFC and only absorbed one. I mean, like, the guy is very, very precise. He's very, very hard to find. And Dricus, I think if Dricus is going to fight the fight that gives him the best chance to win, he needs to be pressuring nonstop. He needs to have Izzy on that back foot, and he needs to be mixing in the wrestling and the grappling. So I think that's going to open up opportunities for Izzy to land the big shot if Dricus has to get sloppy when he is putting that pressure on. And I also think if Dricus does fight with that pressure, if he does make Izzy wrestle, if he is getting takedowns in multiple rounds, which is something we just don't see people do against Israel Adesanya, because they're just not going to put him in there against somebody that can grapple. So this is going to be one of the first instances in Dricus DuPlessis of somebody that can actually grapple their way out of a paper bag, actually fight Israel Adesanya in a high-level fight here. And I don't want to hear about Yoel fucking Romero. That guy didn't wrestle at all. He wrestled in the Olympics, and then he left wrestling completely behind, and he started trying to knock people's heads off. So don't give me the fuck that shit about, oh, Yoel Romero's a wrestler. No, he didn't wrestle anybody at the UFC level. So my Greasy 4-leg parlay is right there, and that's coming out to plus 850 this week. I think that's what I'm going to go with tomorrow, but we got to see what happens in the weigh-ins. If there's one leg that I'm not sure, I want that Stuart Nickel bet in there because that's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. I've got 3 units on the under 1.5 for Jenkins and Burns, so it's obviously one of my favorite bets of the week. Have to play that. Dan Hooker is my dog pick of the week, and I think that this is the best way to play him because I think he wins at least one round against Gamrot. And then I just got to find a 4th leg, but right now I do like the under 4.5 rounds for DuPlessis versus Adesanya. Like I said, DuPlessis in all of his fights as a professional, and there are 23 of them, 9 wins by KO, 10 wins by submission. He's been finished twice. So 19 finish wins, 2 finish losses. That's 21 out of 23 fights. And Dricus in the UFC, he's had 5 of his 7 UFC fights finish inside the distance. So you're giving him 5 rounds. Middleweight fights that are scheduled for 5 rounds finish inside the distance about 56% of the time. And you got to remember, that's with Israel Adesanya, who has 11 fights, only finishing 4 of them. So those fights that for Israel with Israel Adesanya that do see the scorecards, they're when he faces other kickboxers who are just going to stand at range with him and play a point striking battle. Shit, man. Sean Strickland almost finished Israel Adesanya the last time they fought. Strickland finishes nobody. I mean, other than Abus Magomedov, who gassed out after 4 minutes, Strickland's finishing nobody at this level. Strickland almost finished Adesanya in the first round. So the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 135, under 4.5 rounds at minus 130. The data hates those bets, but stylistically, I do like it. I think somebody's going to get finished there. Yeah, less time to rehydrate than normal. DDP is not scared of Izzy, says I love cats. Yeah, I mean, he better not be, these guys have definitely got to be very confident. We got Carlos Reynolds in there saying, yeah, the Robbie. What is up, Carlos? Good to see you hanging out in here. We got the Dogfather in the room. What is up, Dogfather? Saying, I feel gross having more than 5 units risked on a card, and I'm nearing it. Having double digits would give me anxiety. Good luck, boss. Dude, like, I'm a pretty risk averse gambler, but I very rarely get above 10 units on any card. Last card I only had 3.25 units, but I'm trying to be more active, because I work at this really hard. I should be making more bets. I should be a little bit more active. And this is one of the cards that I'm definitely trying to do that. But yeah, I've got 7 units on right now, man. I don't think you're losing your edge, dude. You're doing just fine, Dogfather. You got a great process. Love the show that the Dogfather's doing with my guy Lou Betcha over on the Way Past That channel. Fight Factors, good stuff. So that's been something I've been watching every single week. So shout out Dogfather. Shout out way past that. Shout out Lou Betcha. Olajuwon Dream saying Gojira was in the Gojira was in the opening ceremony. That's badass, dude. You know, you gotta have Gojira in the opening ceremony of the Olympics. John Anik tweeted something like door to door 34 hours, and he is from South Florida. Yep. There you go. 34 hours. So yeah, I saw Kiwi, you know, put that on Twitter earlier, like, hey, you know, these guys are not hometown fighters. It's like 3,000 miles from Auckland to Perth. Well, it's like 14,000 miles from South Florida to Perth. So I think it was Kiwi who actually coined the term that there are planets that are closer than Perth. And it's true, you know, it's a long way to go to get to Perth, Australia, man. Broke DGen saying, last time I said Izzy's going to beat up on Dricus, and we're going to get Strickland and Izzy again, and that's what it's been announced. Strickland 4-1 at worst. Everybody watch round 5. Sean destroys him. Yeah, I mean, that was a close fight. I was drunk when I watched it, so I actually did score it for Dricus, but my scoring really doesn't matter because I feel like I was pretty drunk when I watched that. So I would have to really go back and analyze it. And right now, 25 minutes is not something I have to watch that fight, unfortunately. I got to move on to next week, and I got stats to come out for the card 3 weeks from now for the Patreon people. And Kiwi saying, nice, it's lined at plus 275 here. We got K-Dog saying, I know Kai Kara France is more finish reliant, but if Behrman asks him to replicate Pantoja's game plan fight style, can Kai Kara France pull off in a 3-round format? I don't know. I mean, like, I don't think Kai Kara France wants to try to out wrestle Steve Erceg, because that's not, Pantoja didn't win the fight by outstriking Erceg. He won it by getting minutes on the ground, by getting the takedowns and winning, you know, getting enough minutes on the ground that he could bank some of those rounds. That was a very close fight, but I thought that Erceg was doing the better work at distance against Pantoja. With Kai Kara France, I think Kai Kara France is going to want to keep this standing because that's where he does his best work. He's got really good power, and I think, you know, somebody like Erceg, he might have a little bit of a hard time closing the distance against a 5'9" flyweight. But if he doesn't, I think he's going to be wanting to get in that pocket and land the big shots. I don't think he wants to replicate the game plan of Pantoja because I think Erceg's the better grappler, to be honest with you. So I think that Kai Kara France is going to try to keep it standing. Jacob Cole's got Reyes by KOA. If you like it, man, the price is right. You know, like Jack Jenkins or like Tom Nolan by KO's minus 450 this week. Alex Reyes by KO, that's like plus 1,200. So yeah, have fun. Throw a quarter unit on it. Olajuwon Dream saying hip hop beats. Yes, sir, man. Genova does some really cool stuff. It's definitely hip hoppy, but it could be down tempo-y, a little bit trip hoppy as well. He's got some of the like, I know that Genova did a track on one of the Mushroom Jazz that DJ Mark Farina did a while back. And Mark Farina, local guy, I went to the same high school as Mark Farina in Park Ridge, Illinois. He's a San Francisco guy now, though. Definitely hip hop, trip hop, that kind of stuff, down tempo-y stuff. And Genova saying, thanks, brother, appreciate that. Hope you dig the beats, dude. I like it already, man. Olajuwon Dream saying, sounds like if Herbert loses, he's retiring. I think Herbert retired a long time ago, guys. We just didn't get the memo. He's been showing up and pulling a Bob Sapp in a lot of these fights, man. It's fucking terrible. We got K-Dog saying after 305, a few people are getting their walking papers, sadly. Yeah, I mean, Alex Reyes is one of them. Herbert Burns is one of them. Who else did they send out here to lose? There's one more guy that's going to get his ass shaved, and that you know they're sending him out here to lose. Neil Santos. So Burns gone. Ricky Glenn against Song Kanan. Yeah, those guys are all going to be gone. Port saying, who shits in the apple pie this weekend, Weezy? Could it really be Nolan? Yeah, sure, it could be Nolan. Look, Nolan got dropped by Victor Martinez. Let me repeat that. Tom Nolan got dropped by Victor Martinez. So, yeah, I mean, anything is possible, you guys. This is MMA. You know, he could go out there, throw a leg kick like Chris Weidman, and his leg could snap in half. Anybody could shit in the apple pie on any given day. It could be Tom Nolan. It could be Jack Jenkins. He could get taken down and rear naked choked in the first round by Herbert Burns, who's very dangerous early in fights. You know, you can make I like several underdogs here. I think Walter Walker is going to beat Tafa. I think Ricardo Ramos can beat Josh Kulabau by decision. I've got a bet on Casey O'Neill's money line at plus 145. I think Herbert Burns could get a first round submission against Jack Jenkins potentially. Tom Nolan is somebody that is very long and tall for the division, but for some reason he likes to get into the pocket, and he's very much there to be hit and countered when he starts trying to get his own offense off. I think Ricky Glenn, I don't know if he's got a whole lot of finish upside or win upside here. And then I think Nickel is going to beat Aguilar, but you never know, man. Nickel's, it's a debut in front of a live crowd at home, you know, in the UFC. Could be an adrenaline dump, could be nerves. Nickel could shit in the apple pie. Gamrot could shit in the apple pie because the market keeps overpricing Mateus Gamrot. He was like minus 250 against Jalen Turner. That fight wound up being a coin flip. He was like minus 275 against Beneil Dariush. Dude, he was like minus 500 against Rafael Dos Anjos, who's a 40-year-old man. He's getting dropped. He lost the first round of that fight. So Mateus Gamrot at minus 350. No thanks. I love that. I love that plus 3.5 points handicap. I think he's gonna have a really hard time finishing Dan Hooker. Because I think that he's gonna probably be just like trying to wrestle nonstop. And I don't think that he's gonna win the striking exchanges of that fight. So yeah, I mean, I think anybody could do it. We got Shy saying, I don't see Ty being able to knock out Jairzinho. Therefore, you got Jairzinho. I mean, like, I like Jairzinho. I think he's a much more technical guy. I think one of the things I like about Jairzinho in this fight in particular is that he's very difficult to find at range. I mean, I know he got knocked out by Volkov, but he was running into the pocket there. He just didn't want to deal with Volkov's size advantage. And we saw what Volkov did to Tuivasa as well. But with Tuivasa and Rosenstrike, you see here, Tai Tuivasa, 8 knockdowns in the UFC, and he's allowed 6. Rosenstrike's landed 7, but he's only allowed 1. So while both of these guys have got a ton of power, one of these guys is getting knocked down a whole lot more than the other one is. So I think Rosenstrike's a little bit more likely to win minutes, like do a little bit more, land a little bit more, with a little bit more accuracy, be a little bit more defensively responsible. And I think he's a little bit less likely to absorb the big shot. He is better defensively than Tai Tuivasa. So I do like Rosenstrike to win that fight. Gogo saying Alex Reyes has won fight since 2017. Last 2 fights have ended in round 1 knockout. He's 37, traveling from the U.S. Nolan KO round 1, 100 to win, $87. Greasy parlay piece. The problem is the potential of the club and sub. And that's why I say that this is like a 1-800 gambler fight. Because when you're sitting in there and you know that somebody's minus 1,150, you know that the inside the distance prop is minus 1,000. That's how the bookies start to get you to go, well, I guess I got to go KO, or I guess maybe like the values on sub. You shouldn't be thinking that way. You know, you should be betting sub props when they're plus EV. You know, you should be like, there's certain spots, like for instance, like Jairzinho Rosenstrike to win by submission is a plus EV bet. Now, would I bet it? No, but it's plus 3,000, right? He's never subbed anybody, but this guy Tuivasa gets subbed all the time. And what if Jairzinho drops him and then Tuivasa doesn't get up and he just like pounces on him and then Tuivasa turtles up? Dude, anybody could get a rear naked choke. You saw, if you're like me, you saw schoolyard fights with fifth graders where somebody's rear naked choking the person that they're beating up because it's something that you like come out of the womb actually knowing how to do is just choke the shit out of somebody. We've got instincts. You don't need to go to a jujitsu class to know how to land a rear naked choke. So that's the problem, is that these guys are mixed martial artists. They do train these things, even though we know that Tuivasa's not shooting any takedowns. We know that Rosenstrike's not shooting any takedowns. A knockdown is just as good as a takedown. And once you've got a knockdown, the chance that you're going to finish with some kind of a submission could be there. So is it a parlay piece? I don't think so, dude. I wouldn't parlay that. I wouldn't, like a first round KO prop that they're pricing at over 50% implied probability. I get it. I get it that you want to play that because it probably hits. It's one of those ones that sometimes you just got to hold your nose and say, you know what? At the end of the day, if it cashes, I just had an 87% return on investment in 3 minutes. And that's the way you got to look at it sometimes. Do I think he knocks him out in round 1? That's my prediction. Tom Nolan KO 1. As somebody that, creates content and these betting models and stuff, can I get to a Tom Nolan KO 1 with a minus behind it? I can't. I just can't. Because then you put unfair expectations. It's like, oh yeah, dude, to say that any UFC fighter has a over 50% chance to finish another UFC fighter in round 1 by KO is such a huge stretch. I mean, like, we could find out. I mean, I could sort it. Like, what percentage of fights end by first round KO in the UFC? I mean, it's not a lot. I mean, what percentage of fights even end in the first round in the UFC? Let me see if I have that. Prize Picks Analytics, all fights. All right, so we got all fights here. We're up to 5,625 fights. So let's go all the way up to the analytics, right? Go over here. Fight doesn't start round 2. That's 25% of these 5,080 fights that have ended in round 1. 25%. And then, like, if you look at how fights end, KO. Do we have that number? How fights end? 3-0. 30% of fights end by KO. 18% of fights end by submission. 49% of fights, 49.3% of fights end inside the distance. And 49.69% of fights go to decision. And then you've got draws. You've got some no contests in there. So, yeah, it's something we know what these numbers are. But, like, if 30% of fights end by KO and only 25% of fights end in round 2, so it would either have to end by submission or KO. So KO is 30%, subs like 18%. So it's like 60% of the finishes would be by KO. So if we take 25 and you take that by 6, it would be about 15%. About 15% overall fights end by KO in round 1 across all weight classes. 15%, and you're paying like 55% on that line. That's what it just took a long time to say that, but that's what it is, you guys. The Dogfather saying Nolan Reyes doesn't start round 2, minus 158 is so tempting. It is tempting, dude. I like that, Ryan saying, love Weezy, guy rides, baby. Let's get it, man. We got Olajuwon Dream saying, love it, Weezy. We got Olajuwon saying, I have an under 2.5 parlay, but I might sprinkle Biggie Boy decision as a hedge. Yeah, dude, I don't hate violence here. But I would just say, like, if I was betting Biggie Boy Tuivasa violence, I would say, like, give me the under 1.5. And here's why. That's a cool thing about my betting models is you can find out, like for instance, right here, a fight doesn't go to decision, priced at minus 600. Tuivasas had 12 UFC fights scheduled for 3 rounds. 10 of them have finished inside the distance. Rosenstrike has had 7 UFC fights finish scheduled for 3 rounds. 6 of them finished inside the distance. So 84% of their combined 19 fights have finished inside the distance. But here we go to under 1.5, and you're getting most of it. You're getting 8 of 12. You're getting 5 of 7. If you go up to fight doesn't start round 3, for instance, you're actually getting 100% of the finishes because these guys have never finished or been finished in round 3. So most of the finishing equity is going to be in round 1. A little bit's going to be in the first half of round 2. Maybe a little bit less than that in the second half of round 2. So if I'm betting violence, I always like to get that cheaper price and get most of the win condition of those fighters. So that's what I like there. But they're big numbers. They're very big numbers. So I don't mind a contrarian play there. Wild Barry is asking if I was born in Chicago. Yes, sir. Born at Michael Reese Hospital back in 1974. As a matter of fact, I want to welcome in 1974 because I was the New Year's baby on a winning note. That's my mom and my dad there, and that is me. And I think my brother's there too. Yeah, my brother's there too. Like you could see him there, but yeah, that's my mom. That's my dad. That's the note of me being born on New Year's Day, 1974, Michael Reese Hospital in Chicago. We got Shy got picked saying Nolan round 1 KO minus 160 is the only play worth it there. Yeah, and I think that's just too expensive. I'm just going to sit it out. It's my 1-800-GAMBLER fight of the week. I'm sitting it out. Going to watch Big Train Nolan probably shave this dude's ass inside of 2 minutes. I mean, it's hard to picture any other result, but it's also hard for me to picture betting on that fight because the prices are just out of hand. Bro, I don't know. Maybe him and his wife can't have kids. Don't know. Don't know why he chose to do that. No clue. None of my business either, really. None of my business. I'm glad that he's given kids that need a home, though. Nothing wrong with that. But I don't know, Rick. Elijah Dream saying free drinks can't beat that. The first 3 weren't free, and believe me, they weren't free. But yeah, man, with those, they were baller ass drinks. Dearly beloved here in Chicago is the name of the place that we went to. It was awesome. Fantastic drinks, great food. Elijah Dream saying the Aussies will be day drinking on Sunday morning. Of course they will. I mean, they'd be doing that if the UFC wasn't there. So I'm ready for the Aussie fans to get what they deserve, which is plenty of UFC events every single year. The Aussie fans are awesome. Jeff Bruno saying DDP definitely does have more finishing equity, which is weird because the inside the distance no action odds were about even last I checked. That's a great thing to look at. Like it's a great indicator of how live an underdog is. Like for instance, Gamrot, the guy's minus 350, but if you look at the finish only prop, it's not even minus 200. So they're telling you that even though they're telling you that, yeah, he's got about almost 80% probability to win the fight. If there is a finish, they're saying it's maybe about 60% of the finishing equity goes to Gamrot there. And I disagree with that. I think that actually Dan Hooker has more finishing equity than Mateusz Gamrot. Gamrot could get a submission. He's a very slick submission grappler, but he's not Islam Makhachev. I mean? He's not the guys that are out there subbing, a guy that's the quality of Dan Hooker. So, yeah, man, it's going to be a very interesting fight. It's one of the ones that I think I probably won't have any action on other than a potential violence bet for the last leg of the parlay. But if I can find something else here in my betting models that sticks out that I like the stylistic read for as well, I'm going to do that. We got Lajuan Dream saying I could see Izzy catching DDP like he did Rob. DDP will have to be very careful blitzing in. Yeah, dude. I mean, Izzy could catch anybody, man. I mean, like he is a sniper. And I think a lot of his fights are boring because he doesn't have opponents like Dricus DuPlessis, who is going to pressure him, who is going to make him work, who's going to try to put him on his back foot. And when he gets an opportunity to fight somebody like that, he's much more likely to find that big shot. Kevin J is in the room saying, much appreciated. Thank you for hanging out, Kevin. Let me know if you got any questions for me. Let me see. Someone reported my comment because I've got all the time trolls on other streams. I said when Poirier took out Saint Denis, he beat that bitch, and he is a bitch just like everybody in France. Okay. Took out Saint Denis. Okay. Yeah, dude, that was a great fight. I love that fight, man. They erased my comment. Okay. I know how to do that. You just report people. I can erase everyone's comment in here. I do it all the time on live streams that have trolls. Okay. I didn't know that. We got Ryan saying, who do you think that Kai Kara is a quitter after what happened? Oh, do I think he's a quitter after what happened versus Moreno? I thought he was tough until I saw him do that. I hate betting on guys that quit for my catch. I don't think he quit. I think he got touched in the liver, didn't he? Because it'll look like you're quitting if you get hit in the liver, but your body just shuts down. You can't even. You would think that your legs would work, but they don't. I mean, everything shuts down. If you've ever had the wind knocked out of you, that's something that happened to me as a kid. It's like you think you're going to die. There's no air left in your lungs because you get hit in the solar plexus and it actually ejects all the air from your lungs. And once the air is gone from your lungs, like your body stops functioning for a short period of time. It's the same thing when you get your liver hit. Your liver is collecting toxins. Every poison that gets put into your body, your liver is filtering that out. If you get touched there, all those toxins can come back out, and your body will just shut down while it's dealing with the poison being put back in your system. So, if you get touched in the liver, it's not like you're quitting. It might look like that, but body shots can shut you down completely. Whether they knock the wind out of you, whether they touch your liver, or whether they get you in the gut just right to where you're actually this close to shitting your pants, because that'll happen too. That happened to Derek Lewis. Remember that fight when he got hit in the gut and he kind of like backed up and like, I don't remember what fight that was, but he wound up winning the fight. And after the fight, they were like, it looked like you were holding your gut, like you were hurt to the midsection. He's like, yeah, man, I had to doo-doo, is what he said. So, like, I don't think Kai Kara France is a quitter. He's been finished in a lot of his losses, but it's hard to call any of these mixed martial arts quitters. I mean, but then again, I just did call Herbert Burns a quitter, but you never saw Kai Kara France quit like that. So no, I don't think he's a quitter, dude. I don't think he is. I might be wrong about that. Who did that? I want whoever in the comments says, yeah, I don't know. When you get to that part easy, you're going to think I'm crazy, but someone reported my comment and took it off. What is a plus 3.5 points handicap? So what that is if you win the fight inside the distance, it cashes. If it goes to the judges' scorecards, you add up the judges' scores for each of the fighters. So Judge A has a 30-27, Judge B has a 30-27, Judge C has a 30-27 for fighter A. You add 30 plus 30 plus 30 for fighter A. You add 27 plus 27 plus 27 for fighter B. And fighter A won by 9 points because he got 90 and the other guy got 81. So, like, for instance, plus 3.5 points. I'm starting at plus 3.5. If Dan Hooker loses the fight 29-28 on all three scorecards, all three judges have it Gamrot 29, Hooker 28. When you add the 329s, you get 87. When you add the 328s, you get 84. But I'm getting plus 3.5 points. So I actually have 87.5 to Gamrot's 87. I cover the bet. I win. So it's just if Dan Hooker goes out there and gets submitted or knocked out, I lose the bet because he lost. If he goes out there and gets a finish, I win the bet. If it goes to the judges' scorecards, then the way the judges score the fight, we add up the three for fighter A, the 3 for fighter B, and depending on whether you're giving the points or getting the points, it's just like a point spread in a basketball game. We have a traitor in our midst. I would never report a comment street. I literally report hundreds of comments a week from trolls and other streams. We got Kiwi saying they have to win just one round on the scorecard. Can lose, but they must be 29-28. Yeah, like, so if your guy loses 30-27, 29-28, 29-28, then he lost by 4 points and you didn't cover the 3.5. So, yeah, it just depends on the three judges' scorecards. But it's like one of those things where it's like your guy can lose the fight, but you can still cover the bet if you're getting those plus 3.5 points. And so you get it now. That is good. Go. We got TH saying Bunny Boiler. Let's go. I don't know what that means. We got Cuban Assassin saying, what to do, Weezy. Kai KF talking about his concussion therapy is gnarly. I think this could be it if he gets owned. He sounds worried about any damage whatsoever. Yeah, dude. Kai's been away for over a year. He had to pull out of the Manel Cop with the concussion. So it's one of those things, man. Like, once you start having concussions, the doctors start telling you, here's what could happen if this happens again. And it's scary. When they start telling you what can happen, it's very scary, because that's your brain. That's your computer. Your computer shuts down, dude. You become a vegetable. You can't function properly. So, yeah, man, once you start getting a few of these, it could be so bad. So, yeah, I mean, like, look what happened to Luque. Luque was a guy who could take so much damage. And then after the Jeff Neal fight, he had the bleeding on the brain. He's been completely different because he can't trust his durability anymore. And the doctors told him, when your brain starts bleeding because you're getting your fucking ass kicked inside of a cage, a doctor is going to sit you down and tell you, this is not a good idea. Like, I know this is how you make your living, but how about coaching? How about announcing? How about anything where your brain isn't bouncing off the inside of your skull? How about that? So, yeah, man, this could easily happen to any pro fighter. And when they get knocked out, you got to be worried that they're having brain injuries, man. So, yeah, he should be worried about it, dude. Michael Martinez saying Santos money line, Pratesh KO, Jenkins under 1.5, Urseg money line, Greasy. I like 3 of those. I think Pratesh is going to win by KO, but it's a risky bet because Li Jingliang has never been knocked out. Jenkins under 5, I love. Urseg money line, I think Urseg does win the fight, but I'm not going with Santos. I'm actually picking I'm picking Casey O'Neill to win that fight, and I have a money line bet on her. And Pratesh probably gets the KO, but he might not. Strickland doesn't finish anyone because he loves to fight too much. I believe that. No joke. He basically admitted it. He wants to beat you up, and he doesn't want to finish the fight because he's having fun. And he spars all the time. So that makes sense. And he's so good at it. He's so good at pressuring you, walking you down, out voluming you, out landing you, just keeping that jab in your face. I mean, he's a tough opponent, dude. And the way he just walked down Adesanya and wouldn't let him, he checked all those leg kicks. He wasn't putting any weight on that front leg. That front leg was very rarely even touching the ground. He was tapping it up and down like a Muay Thai fighter and just keeping on that forward pressure. It really took away what Israel wanted to do, and it didn't appear that there was a plan B. And that was weird, because it was like, well, did you think the guy wasn't going to pressure you? If you watch Sean Strickland fight, of course he's going to he pressured Alex Pereira. He's not fucking afraid of you. He's not afraid of anybody. He didn't even try to wrestle Pereira, So, yeah, I mean, that's the way Strickland fights, and I believe that 100%. Let's see, Nathan Robinson saying now he's on the nickel money line. I like that. The Jenkins Burns under 2.5. That comes around to minus 115. I think that's a good parlay there. And he's saying, I kind of worry about Nickel's striking, though. It looks a bit erratic. Yeah, but you know what? Dude, Jesus Aguilar's got the shortest reach out of any male fighter in the UFC. His only knockout in his career is over Shannon Ross, who's recently been knocked out by a hot shower. And I just don't see, I don't see either of these guys really winning minutes or moments in the distance striking exchanges because these guys are always at grappling range. That's where they fight. So I think that is like I think it's one of those things where you like Nichols doesn't have great striking. He's clearly a grappler first. He's clearly the kind of guy that's going to be looking to get this fight to the ground because that's where he does his best work. And Aguilar is a guy who's, like kind of guillotine dependent, but he can absolutely wrestle and he can get reverses if you take him down and get on top and eat up some minutes there. So yeah. Yippee Kaye saying, Weezy, if you had to pick the safest minus 300 on this card, what are you going with? Gamrot at minus 350. No, thank you. Carlos Prates at minus 400. It's just wild. Jenkins minus 700. Nolan minus 1150. I mean, I would just say Stuart Nickel at minus 230. It's an even better price. I like that a lot. Jack Jenkins inside the distance, I think happens, but I wouldn't lay minus 350 on an inside the distance prop. So I'd rather just tell you to bet Nickel at minus 230. I think he gets the job done here. I think you have to worry about an adrenaline dump, about nerves, about any of the things that can happen to a young debuting fighter in front of a live crowd. But I think if you look at the fight stylistically, that Nickel is going to be the minute winner and the moment winner in the grappling exchanges, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of striking exchanges. I have 1 million units. That's what I go by. My units are like, oh, okay, yeah. Like, well, a lot of people have units as 1% of their bank. That's what I'm at. I'm at 1% of my bankroll. Is my what I go with. I'm so rich that I don't have big units for my bankroll, but I do bet a few hundred. I bet I am just so rich. Yeah, the guy named Broke DGen talking about how rich he is. Yeah, I'm not rich either. I am definitely not rich, but I know that some of you guys definitely gamble a lot more than I do. Sounds dope, says Olajuwon. We got Jay Bone saying Ricky Glenn. Yes, I think that's going to be the last one, man. We got Rick Sanchez, the world's most brilliant physicist in the room, saying Urseg, Nickel, and DuPlessis plus 5.5 points plus 244. I like that. That's a good looking parlay to me. Plus 244. Let's go. Love you too, Rick. Thank you for all you do, my man. Broke Dean saying, does everybody realize for $10 a month you get every pay-per-view in history, every fight in history, a couple of 100 live combat fights all on Fight Pass? Yeah, Fight Pass is awesome. I love the UFC Fight Pass. I hate ESPN Plus. ESPN Plus is disgusting, terrible, awful, terrible. But I love UFC Fight Pass. I would gladly pay for that. But God, UFC, please stop doing business with Disney Corporation, please, for the love of Jah. If I think Strickland was a close fight, then you just watch round 5. That should be the deciding round. 5 minutes of your time. Yeah, I'll look into that one for sure. Shaky with life saying super locked in on these guys. Nickel, Kanan, Nolan, Jenkins, Pratesh, Urzeg. If I had to pick one of those guys to lose, God, man. Maybe Pratesh loses just because he doesn't find the big shot. Like Pratesh, I'll show you something here. Like we know that he's won his last 2 fights dominantly, but look at the stats, right? You can see here that Pratesh landed 4.3 distance strikes per minute and absorbed 6.7. So his distance striking differential is negative 2.3. But he finds the big shot. He downloads all the information. He finds his range. He finds out what you're trying to do, and he sets up his big shots, whether it's that step-in knee, whether it's that straight left hand. He can also catch you with a nice right hook, a nice check right hook, great rear leg body kicks and head kicks. He finds one of those big weapons, you're going down. But if he doesn't find the weapon, he might lose the minutes until the fight's over and he's like, what happened? I didn't find the big shot. So I would worry about Li Jingliang by decision potentially. And Urseg's got a really high level opponent. And I could worry. I mean, like, even though Stuart Nickel is Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, that's my favorite pick in terms of like I'm more confident in other people, but I mean, Tom Nolan's minus 1150, Jenkins minus 700. It doesn't do me any good for me to give you those guys. So yeah, I think Nickel could potentially have nerves or an adrenaline dump. We see so many people have their worst ever performance in their debut. So and Song Kanan, I don't think is great. Like Song Kanan is not a guy you lay minus 180 on unless you just really believe that Ricky Glenn is completely done for, because I just don't think Song Kanan's great. He's not. He's another guy that's moment dependent. If he doesn't find the moment, he's going to get out-minuted. We got Shaky saying, everything says Jair should win. I get it. I'm calling Tuivasa round 1-2 KO. Nothing wrong with that. Ty lives for these fights. Yeah, man. He's got 4 losses in a row, but they're all top 10 guys, and 3 of the guys are literally top 3 right now, with Pavlovich, Volkov, and Cyril Gane. So obviously this guy's fighting the top-notch guys in the division, and yeah, you're going to get knocked out by some of those guys. All right, we got Ruben Bianchi in the room saying, "Oi, been too long, Unc. Glad to be back and stack them like flapjacks." Ruben, thank you for hanging out, man. I know that Ruben just joined the Patreon today, so welcome to the team, Ruben. Looking forward to working with you here in the future, man, and stacking cash tickets like flapjacks together in the future here. We got Rouses in the room, another Patreon member, saying, "Oi, Unc, what are your thoughts on the under 70.5 fantasy score for Tafa? I don't see Tafa finishing, and he'd have to land 50 significant strikes and defend off 6 takedown attempts with the 20-point decision." Yeah, these guys don't land a lot, but he would have to knock them out. Obviously, if Tafa gets a knockout, that would be huge. And if he does stuff a ton of takedowns, that would be huge as well. 70 is like if you're winning on Prize Picks, it's very hard to score under 70 points. Very hard. Like, for instance, I can even show you here. So let's get Junior Tafa. And let's look at the Prize Picks. So, if you join the Patreon, like Rousus is on the Patreon, you can look right here. I've got Prize Pick scores for people, right? And we know what the work rate per minute is for Tafa at the UFC level. It's 3.34 points per minute. So let's just say he scores that. 3.34 times 15 equals 50.1. Add the 20 and you get 70.1 right there at that number. So don't think that these guys at Prize Picks don't have this information right here. They don't get it from their Uncle Weezy probably, but maybe they do. Who knows? Who better to get it from, right? Are you going to pay some asshole $300 a month for an API when you can just go to Uncle Weezy and get the stats package for $25 a month and have access to everybody's Prize Picks, FanDuel, DraftKings, underdog stats per minute here, what they give up, what they score. This guy's scoring 58 points per fight, 119 per win, and 27.9 per loss. So yeah, 3.34 points per minute. He's gonna have to stuff some takedowns for sure, but I don't think he's gonna stuff a lot of takedowns, to be honest with you. I think Walter Walker is just huge, and I think he's probably gonna get the ones that he goes for, but we'll see. We got Gogo saying, thanks for the Nolan breakdown. I might play it anyway, but I hear you. You ain't wrong. Yeah, dude, it's a price thing for me. And a lot of people will tell you, hey, man, just bet the bets that cash. And that's a great thing to say. But I think one of the things I'm very aware of is that no matter how much work you put in, the good guys get it right about 65% of the time when it comes to who's going to win a fight. I mean, if you look at people over these long-term sample sizes, all the cappers, they're getting it right around 65% of the time, which means 35% of the time you're fucking wrong. And if you don't go, I mean, like, that's a great way to lose a bunch of money is to be like, oh, I trust my stylistic read. I mean, we're supposed to trust our balls. We're supposed to trust our stylistic reads, but you also have to be humble enough to know that, yeah, I get it wrong 35% of the time automatically. So while you want to trust your read, you also have to be humble enough to know that, yeah, my read's going to be wrong a lot of the time as well. And when you're stacked up against those kind of numbers, Ben, that's when you start to see maybe, I'm overpaying for this particular bet, and we're going to lose some, we're going to win some. But the fact that this dude is flying all the way to Perth to take this fight against an Australian, yeah, it sets up for a first round KO. We got Stacks in the room saying, "Big oi, what is up, Stacks?" We got Mark saying, "Liver is like a Derek Lewis head KO ×2." Yeah, man, it is. It's going to shut you down. Your body stops working. So there's nothing that you could do. It's just you're going to go down. So I think that's what happened to Kai. Izzy by KO of the year, says Action Jackson in the room. When that guy lands, it's usually highlight reel. That is for sure. We got Fender Jazz in the room saying, "G'day, Weezy." Good day, Fender Jazz. Thank you for hanging out. We got Gogo saying, "I'm not saying DDP sucks, but if Flavor Flav taught us anything in the early 90s, it was don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. Hear me out. Tavares dragged DDP through hell. Fatty Till beat him up at the end of the first and won the second easily. 39-year-old Brunson won the first and then gassed. Whitaker's is only super impressive win." And he says, "Plus Izzy is clearly on roids. The pendulum on DDD sucking might have swung too far in the other direction. Maybe." Yeah, man, that's for sure. Oh my God, Nolan round 1 KO is minus 360 on DraftKings. Is that true? I'm not calling you a liar, Jacob, but that is something I need to see with my own eyes. Tom Nolan, KO 1, minus 360. Go Flamingo, I was wrong. If you're getting minus 130 or whatever that was, dude, have at it. I can't believe that, man. That is bonkers. That is absolutely crazy. Oh my God. That makes me want to puke. Yeah, and it probably is happening. That's why they're pricing it, because they know it. They know it's going to happen. AJ Worse in the room saying, "Leader of men, what's up, dude?" We got Troy Thacker saying Tarzan is the man. Tarzan Strickland. I can't wait for the next fight. Looking forward to seeing him in there again. We got Fender Jazz saying concussions. Spencer Fisher. Fuck. Such a heartbreaking part of our beloved sport. Yeah, man. Spencer the King Fisher, one of the one of the pioneers of the sport. He was one of those guys that was fighting 4 times a year back in 2009, 2008, back when around the inception of this thing. And yeah, man, he's suffered so many concussions, and it just goes to show you, once that brain stops working, you don't have anything left, really. Like, the body can be fine, but the brain needs to send the signals to tell the rest of the body what to do. Otherwise, it doesn't work properly. Yeah, man. Shout out Spencer Fisher. It's a shame what happened to him. We got K-Dog saying Gamrot calling for an interim if he wins because Islam is hurt. Yeah, I heard Islam's hurt. Honestly, I see it, but Dan Hooker is in midlife crisis mode and might be more dangerous than ever now that he's tatted the fuck up. Yeah, he did get a lot of tattoos, man, and he's dyeing the hair and shit like that. So, yeah, man, it's going to be interesting. That's going to be a great fight. Gamrot is a very talented fighter, and Dan Hooker always puts on fun fights. So that's going to be a great one. A bunny boiler is a crazy person, stalker, like from the movie. Okay, I did not know that. All right, yeah. Bunny boiler. All right, got it. Like Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction. Yes, got it. US broke DJN saying, "Go Flamingo, you're a dumbass to say Izzy is on steroids." Yeah, dude, I think all these guys are on steroids. Misinformation. He's got minus 1150 is crazy. It's absolutely crazy, man. Let's see. We got Fight Fu, great Gabriel Killian saying, take this four-legger to the bank. Nickel, Santos, Walker, and Rosenstrike plus 618. I don't like Santos. I am definitely on the other side in that fight, but I'm picking Walker to win. I'm definitely picking Nickel to win. He's the ass shaving of the week. And Rosenstrike, I think he does win, but I just worry. Those heavyweight fights, it's always hard to kind of like be really confident because you always know that whoever you bet on, one clean shot and it's fucking over from any of these guys. They all hit so hard. So, yeah, man. Go saying you're only nagging because you're broke. Pay attention to the data and win some money. I believe in you. I believe in everybody in here. You guys are all fantastic. We got DDPs getting knocked out. It could absolutely happen, Khalil. Khalil, the Chinese Kiwi versus the Anglo-Saxon African. It's going to be good. Yes, it is. What's calling Izzy Chinese? The Fight Pass prelims. Yeah, because I know, dude. I watch it every time I can on if I can watch it on Fight Pass instead of ESPN Plus, that's always the way to do it. And a lot of times when I'm taking notes on fights, I'll watch it at 2 times speed. You can't even do that on ESPN. They don't even have that feature where you can watch it on an increased speed, which is huge when you're trying to take notes on fights, because you can watch everything that happened, and then you see if there is a moment that happens, then you can pause, and then you could write, okay, with 2:45 left in the round, Tafa landed a big right hand, and that changed the projection, or that changed the direction of the round up until that point. But when I can't watch it on 2 times speed, it just takes so much longer for me to be able to do my research properly. Fight Pass is so much better than ESPN Plus. Ricky Glenn Sharts and all of the 49 like parlays, him or Dan Hooker. Yeah, man, somebody's going to do it. That's always how it goes, dude. The app on my phone, if I'm watching it widescreen and I turn to tail it, it literally stops the whole stream and goes live. I know, man. ESPN's the fucking worst. We got ESPN app on the phone is actually shitty as hell. Dude, the ESPN app is shitty as hell. You didn't even have to leave. You could leave the on the phone part off of it, broke DJ, because it sucks. My guy, Real Fight Pick, saying Reyes sub prop would be fun. I don't think Reyes has a lot of submissions in his career. Let me look. But then again, I mean, it's like all those fights that he did win were like 10 years ago. So he might have submissions now. Who knows? Nolan Reyes, there it is. And if we go to the advanced matchup, Alex Reyes. Alex Reyes is 4-0 to the submission, and he's 9-3 to the KO. And Tom Nolan's 0-0 to the sub, but I believe Tom Nolan is a BJJ brown belt, but he is a lot more knockout dependent. Red Bar Rants is in is in here, and he is watching. What up, Red Bar? And now we got Red Bar is watching Weezy. Red Bar is watching Go Flamingo. Well, you're watching Go Flamingo because he's the one who sponsored this show today. And we got TH in the room saying, yes, Red Bar. You guys got any other questions for me today? You guys got any specific questions? You want to look at an over-under? You want to look at a particular prop bet? Look at the numbers behind it. Let me know. We got Cody's Calls is in the house saying, yo, Cody's up in the house. What is up, dude? And we got Red Bar Rants is now watching Broke DGen. He's watching all of us, dude. Red Bar is Broke DGen, says Red Bar Rants. And that's my new Red Bar channel, says Broke DGen. Okay, so we got Red Bar Rants is Broke DGen, and he's watching everybody that's in here, you guys. 62 of you live, hanging out here with your Uncle Weezy. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you, Go Flamingo, for sponsoring this show today. And thank you guys for watching and for all the questions. Good luck on all your bets for UFC 305. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for this event. And check out tomorrow. We're going to do the Greasy 4-leg parlay right here on this channel. I think I'm going with this one, which is the Stuart Nickel money line, the under 1.5 rounds in Jenkins Burns, the plus 3.5 points handicap for Dan Hooker, And then I'm thinking about the last leg is the one I'm least sure about, but I'm thinking the under 4.5 rounds for the main event there. And we got Beaver saying, what round does Santos end if no decision? I predicted Beaver around 3 KO for Casey O'Neill. I don't particularly care for Luana Santos's cardio. So yeah, I think that round 3, if it does end, it'll end. But I probably think the fight goes to decision, but my models think that there's a lot of value on the fight finishing inside the distance. We got Daz Files. Thank you, Gogo and Weezy. Thank you for hanging out. Gogo saying, God bless Weezy. God bless right back at you. We got TH saying, thanks, Weezy. You got it. We got Gogo saying, sure to Daz and good luck, brother. And Beaver saying, round 3, I'll tail it. Let's go, man. We got Truth Teller in here. We got TH in here. Appreciate you guys. I appreciate you, Beaver. Yeah, let's get it. I would love to see a Casey O'Neill 3rd round KO because I've got her money line. So yeah, man, appreciate you. Since Protest is low volume, do you think Leach decision only is a play? I don't mind it. I think Leach decision only isn't a bad look at all. What is that? Leach plus 185. I don't mind that. I mean, obviously he could lose. You know, he could lose the moments. He could, you know, it could be Protest landing the bigger shot, and Lee could outland him, but still lose the decision. But yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind that at all because, you know, with Protest, he's a guy who's finished 90% of his wins inside the distance. So we've seen Lee just at this level have a lot more experience on how to win minutes. Jacob Edwards is saying, I'm thinking Nolan KO and Jenkins KO parlay. Yeah, I mean, at minus 110, it probably hits, dude. It definitely probably hits. But I appreciate you guys hanging out. Thank you, Gogo Flamingo, for sponsoring today's show. I'm going to head out of here. Been a long week already, and I got to start doing some stats tomorrow for the Sean Brady versus Gilbert Burns card. So you guys have a great night. Thank you for hanging out. Hit that thumbs up and subscribe on your way out, and we'll see you tomorrow for the Greasy leg 4-leg parlay. Take care, everybody.